man, sweet mother of Moses, this video. You guys have no idea how annoying it was to set this video up. My word, I won't say anymore. Now, in the previous video, there was some guy fanboy who went to the old V video I did about, what, 6 months ago? And simply quoted parts of the video. And I had no idea what the context was. I had to go watch the video to respond. It's very inconsiderate. I was not amused. But now another Just Some Guy fanboy, so by my calculation there should be about 3 or more floating around online, and they were nice enough to go through the Starship video and timestamp all of their grievances. So thank you for that, it's very considerate of you. Makes it much easier to BTFO you for your piss-poor opinions. Now normally I have some rules here. Well, I say rules, they're more like guidelines on how to do these kinds of videos. Normally I would advocate for winning over the crowd first before you go berserk like some bloodlust-driven gladiator who's roided to the gills on bull testosterone and now you're seeing red. However, this is a Just Some Guy fanboy, and so I will disregard all of that entirely and just fly off into 6, so roll it.
That movie is anything but subtle. Verhoeven is also on record saying that he viewed the novel as fascistic, militaristic, and totalitarian.
Even though he hated the book and the source material so much so he didn't finish reading the book, stopping after only the 2nd chapter, calling it boring and depressing. Instead opting to design the movie's world as a fascist utopia in an effort to show why it's bad. I think it's safe to say Paul failed spectacularly at that one. Hence, as Young said, it is a drastic departure from the seriousness of the novel. That goes over Just Some Guy's head, and you'll see why. Ed Neumeyer, however, did read the whole book and was actually a fan of it. Strange how that detail never gets mentioned in these kinds of videos. Because it isn't relevant. From what many talk about, there's a glaring difference and a lack of details when it comes to the film versus the book. You know, first impressions are kind of important, and this is not exactly a good start, lad. There's not much of a point here.
I have seen the movie many times, and I found it to be a decent commentary on the flaws of militarism, fascism, and xenophobia.
I am far more politically aware than Just Some Guy could ever be, and I didn't find any of those themes in the movie at all. Imagine watching Starship Troopers and failing to notice any commentary on militarism. It's only one of the main subjects of the film. Okay, I'm gonna skip this one for now because I will be using it as part of a rant at the end. Needless to say, I kinda disagree with that.
So when Young says, quote, "Beauty is self-evident, and all the characters in ST are good-looking," all he's revealing is his own bias, probably based on his politics and religion given that dig at the left.
This has nothing to do with his own political persuasion. It was an observation. The dig at the left refers to something leftists don't understand, and Just Some Guy is so dense he just proves Young's point by failing to grasp what Young was alluding to. Every time politics comes into play with him, he speaks like he's got an axe lodged in his skull. There was no revealing of any bias there at all. Only someone with an obvious right-wing bias would make such an observation. Absolute load of bollocks. Beauty is not a right-wing bias. Although I will say at this point, the only people that do seem to appreciate beauty are right-wingers, because every time left-wingers touch anything, they pervert it into something resembling their inner souls. Equality is gay, shit it.
Young believes that beauty is self-evident, and so falsely assumes everyone shares his views.
At no point does he say that. You're assuming, pulling it out of your ass, much like everything else you do. I guarantee you, if you told Just Some Guy, make a video using concrete examples of the opposition's positions and not just something you pulled out of your ass, the video would be less than 90 seconds, or probably not get made at all. He doesn't have to say it explicitly, it's easily inferred from his statement. Okay, let's say I can see this point and we can infer this from his statement. Do you disagree with it though? Does anyone think beauty is not self-evident? That you have to be out of your mind to disagree with this. There's a reason why men like certain features on women and vice versa. It's almost like there's an objective standard. Next one, satire and parody aren't mutually exclusive. Now, I'm kind of confused as to why this one is in here because I didn't say they were. I would say Just Some Guy tried to imply that by saying it's not a parody, it's a satire. And following on from this, his claims of satires aren't meant to be funny. Well, satire becomes a parody by the standard the moment someone does find it funny. The categorical distinction, the way he describes it, seems less contingent on the author's creative output, but rather the reaction from the audience member, which is kind of weird.
This might prove a better tool in dissuading people from lionizing such a culture than playing it serious and hoping people will dislike it, especially if they'd only guess that it was cruel.
Again, unless they find it funny, in which case the point falls kind of flat, implying that something can't be both bad and funny. Yeah, I don't see where we're implying something bad can't be funny. His point was the scene where the guy gets his hand impaled by a knife. If you're trying to sell the movie as a serious critique of anything, Moments like that will diminish the tone of your critique. You know, now that I'm going through this guy's points, I don't think he's terribly bright. He doesn't really have anything of value to say. Seems more like moaning for the sake of moaning. Anyway, carry on.
This is not a face I can relate to, sympathize for, or even have a dialogue with. This screams at me to kill it with fire. Even if I didn't want to kill this thing, I want to be in orbit, far away from this creature. It's horrific, and only a contrarian can argue against it. How very Christian of you. And here I thought Catholics were taught to love all of God's creations.
Oh, so before it was bad that he's a right-wing Christian, now he's getting chastised for not being Christian enough. Clearly just some guy has not read the Bible, not exactly a lack of killing in it, mate. Secondly, I'm not going to love something that wants to kill me. If you want to be that stupid and try, be my guest, knock yourself out. Just don't expect to wake up again. Ooh, a trifecta of things this time around. You never said being Christian was bad, only that Isaac was showing his bias as a Christian conservative. Listen here, pal. If you can use the phrase, he doesn't need to say it explicitly, it's easily inferred from his statement, then so can I. Anyone who follows Just Some Guy knows he has a massive hatred of anything conservative. Watch how he spoke to V, and again, it's still not a Christian bias. As a matter of fact, Isaac doesn't bring up religion, only Just Some Guy does. Why do you think that is? Do tell. 2. He's talking about how Christians are called upon to act today. The presence of killing in the Bible is irrelevant. Again, Just Some Guy is the only one who mentions religion, and secondly, not really, considering he's talking about killing the bugs with fire. The violence equivalence of the Bible does make Just Some Guy snarky shot of how Christian of you ring rather hollow, much like his head. 3. The bug doesn't want to kill us. The bug isn't real. The bug cannot hurt you. You know, if you started with the second one, the other two would be redundant. Moving on.
Remember Isaac Young's comment. That's how fast that happens.
Isaac's statement has nothing to do with the bug's actions, only its appearance. This argument is irrelevant. Oh, sweet Lord, give me strength to deal with this imbecile. Let me explain to you how life works, kid, because apparently you've been stupefied by politics, and then again you watch Just Some Guy. I could have guessed this. But mammals have a disgust-response mechanism, well at least humans do anyway, that serves a defensive function. The same way, say, a bunny would bolt if you get too close to it because it sees you as a threat. That same kind of response kicks in with the bug. And considering the bugs harvest human beings, yeah, the appearance argument is entirely justified.
The film doesn't say how humans and bugs came to fight, but it does imply that humans started the conflict.
Where does it imply that humans started the conflict exactly? Does it ever occur to you that if that was the case, the film could simply pull off the humans are just a bunch of psychotic conquerors who hate the other? Would it not have a much stronger position from which to argue that militarism is bad then? That's what the film is doing. At best, what the Federation did was escalate a retaliatory strike into a war of genocidal conquest based. At worst, it used an unrelated disaster as a callous belly for the aforementioned war of genocidal conquest. Either way, the Federation is waging an aggressive war of extermination, which sounds a lot like psychotic conqueror behavior to me. No, that is absolutely not what the film is doing. Just some guy is leading with that argument because it serves his political bias. Secondly, the Federation is waging an aggressive war of extermination, which sounds a lot like psychotic conqueror behavior to me. Once more, I strongly disagree with this assessment. Again, I'll leave it for the end though. However, if that is what they were doing, hypothetically, absolutely based, I am 100% on board with the war of extermination. I am pro-human and I endorse imperial conquest and the utter annihilation of the communist bugs. And yes, that is most definitely my version of it's not happening, but if it was, it's totally a good thing.
And throughout the film, we're shown that everyone, including children, are taught to hate bugs simply because they're different.
I mean, it's a war effort, and when you see what they do to humans, I don't consider the hatred of the bugs just because they're different all that unjustified. 1. Imagine missing the obvious commentary about propaganda, dehumanization, and youth indoctrination because it's a war effort. Well, first of all, propaganda is just information used to steer your thinking in a certain way. I don't consider bug-hating dehumanizing, nor is it indoctrination. It's an enemy that wants to kill you. They don't need to be taught to hate something that wants to harm them. Frankly, I just consider that pattern recognition and survival instincts. 2. The Federation is not acting out of self-preservation. It's waging a war of extermination. There is nothing in the film to indicate that the arachnids are doing the same. You mean aside from launching the meteor that potentially kills Johnny's family and the siphoning of human intelligence via killing them? I imagine if they were smart, they might recognize doing so would be met with retaliation. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think the bugs firing the meteor at Buenos Aires is an act of self-preservation. Me? Not so much. Also, if something is trying to kill you, fighting to exterminate it is a war of self-preservation, just pointing that out. I don't think that something that learns more about my species via killing them is doing so in order to become enlightened and learn about the goodness of free market principles and private property. No, I think they're doing it to learn more about the weaknesses of my species to become more efficient at killing them.
Because it clearly hasn't occurred to him that the bugs probably think the same thing about humans.
Or he could have read the book and know more about the nature of the bugs than you do. I can't rule out that possibility. The book and the film are different. Knowledge of one tells you very little about the other. Well, considering the film is supposedly based on the book, one is more in-depth than the other. If you watch the film after you've read the book, I imagine you will be able to fill in the blanks a lot more, don't you think?
Then 15 minutes later, we're shown humans doing the same thing to the brain bug, but it's shown as propaganda that humans are finally winning. For all the violence the bugs commit, humans do the same thing.
Actually, no. In the movie, the captured bug getting experimented on is still alive. Whereas with humans, they actively just kill and harvest them. They're like the collectors from Mass Effect, essentially. So in other words, the humans are actually worse than the bugs. I'm not sure what else your point could be here. Okay, this is nearing just some guy levels of moron over here. How did you even get remotely close to this conclusion? Bugs learn via killing and extraction. The captured bug is alive and being experimented on. How are we worse? Just on a simple kill count, we're better.
The only thing you can really critique about the Terran Federation is the propaganda and incompetence. But when everything is so slapstick, it fails at landing a serious point. These guys are badasses in a funny movie, not a warning about the dangers of fascism.
Base and true, 100% I endorse that perspective. In fact, I even said on the Twitter, am I the only one who watched Starship Troopers and when it's over the top, it's a tad plastic, it's not to be taken seriously, and the people who are arguing about fascism have nothing better to do, suffer from being terminally online, and should fucking touch grass? I stand by that sentiment, by the way. And I stand by that statement still. Cringe and false. The whole point of the film is to present a satire of militarism, propaganda, and fascism in the guise of a campy, dumb war flick. You can argue how well it does that, but there is no debating that that was the intent. I never debated the intent, you stupid asshole. My whole point was that much like Isaac's, there is too much goofiness in the film for it to be taken seriously as anything else. Nor do I give a crap about your intentions, I only care about the results. If you set out to make a better world via communism and you end up causing mass starvation and genocide, communism still sucks, and Starship Troopers sucks at critiquing militarism. Fun film, though.
His problem is that by making fun of it, the filmmakers reveal that society is farcical, authoritarian, jingoistic, and idiotic. And there's no way for Young to defend it, no matter how cool and pretty he thinks all the people are. So instead, he tries to claim that the film is too silly to act as a warning.
What the fuck do you smoke when you write this shit? What kind of mind-numbing substances are you on when you do these videos, kid? If the state allows you the choice to serve so you can have a say in it, that is not authoritarian, you dim-witted wanker. I mean, by that logic, on a personal level, I lived the first 5 years of my life in Europe under authoritarian rule because I wasn't a citizen. I wasn't permitted to engage with the state, but I potentially could if I stayed here for at least 5 years. How is this any different? Restricting the franchise is, by definition, a more authoritarian system than universal suffrage, and comparing it to the naturalization of foreigners is ridiculous. No, it isn't. First off, equality sucks, and universal suffrage is cringe and gay. It can fuck off. Secondly, it's not ridiculous. Functionally speaking, it is the exact same thing. On the one hand, I have to provide services to the state. The other, I have to remain in the state, pay taxes, maintain residence, etc., etc. Both of these instances, I am rewarded with the same thing: participation in the political process, and it involves the fruits of energy expenditure as a form of currency which I use to earn the right to participate in the process.
Damn, I'm good.
And many of them didn't have the decency to admit later on that they got it wrong.
Got it wrong. Save it for the end.
There's nothing in the movie leading people to support fascism or totalitarianism.
Wait a minute. Say that again?
There's nothing in the movie leading people to support fascism or totalitarianism.
Oh, once more.
There's nothing in the movie leading people to support fascism or totalitarianism.
Oh, fascinating. Yet earlier, he said this.
I have seen the movie many times, and I found it to be a decent commentary on the flaws of militarism, fascism, and xenophobia. And many of them didn't have the decency to admit later on that they got it wrong. There's nothing in the movie leading people to support fascism or totalitarianism.
So let me get this straight. You see these themes, but when others don't, they got it wrong. But you also say there's nothing in the movie that would lead them to support it.
That said, if people are already leaning in that direction, they might miss the point and think the movie is based.
Again, you see these themes, others don't. They got it wrong, though. Yet you also say there's nothing in the movie that would lead them to support it. But if they lean that way anyway, because apparently we're all secretly sleeper agents primed for fascism or some shit, the moment we see military conflict, the conclusion is we would think those themes, which we can't see, are based. You know, I'm starting to see why every video I do that features you ends up outdoing your own videos. I mean, I'm further right than this movie and I thought it was pretty base, nor did I approach this with a politically twitching brain because unlike you, I can actually unplug and view things apolitically. You should try it sometime, maybe for once you can have a take that doesn't suck ass. He won't, by the way. Whenever he tries to do anything vaguely political, his brain performs like a computer trying to fire up a high-end GPU with a 300-watt power supply. It just tanks at the first sign of stress. Now let me end this with a rant and address that militarism point at the start. Because you see, unlike just some guy, despite the fact that I call myself aristocratic, my head isn't firmly up my own ass. Because unlike him, I can politically disengage and simply watch a film and emulate the joyful thinking pattern of the average person who is not politically engaged. I am much more politically inclined than even he is, and the politics is in the first couple of minutes of the movie when they first speak about democracy and the dissection of the bugs being communist. That's it. Like, these concepts of militarism and fascism or xenophobia are a damn joke. The state apparatus barely sees any airtime. The bugs, on the other hand, get featured far more and are only shown as ruthless killing machines. If you're trying to sell this movie as a critique of any kind of political ideology, it utterly sucks at that. The main character goes through far too many heartaches and troubles for you to sympathize with the antagonists, who do not communicate any emotion whatsoever and again are just ruthless killing machines. This is why I said before, if the film was trying to sell these themes of militarism and fascism or xenophobia or any of that kind of nonsense, it would help if you showed the humans in a bad light or as the aggressors and the antagonists as nuanced or misunderstood, and the film simply doesn't do any of that at all. The brain bug apparently shows fear at the end, but it's captured. Of course it's going to show fear. Wasn't showing fear when it was in its own layer harvesting humans left, right, and frickin' center, so frankly, I don't exactly care that it's suddenly afraid. I don't know why people seem to think intelligence is somehow synonymous with peaceful. I don't understand that at all, as if intelligence can only ever be used for reconciliation and never to become more efficient at killing. Especially someone like JustSomeGuy who said he would work past his disgust mechanism if they were shown to be intelligent. He espouses this same bullshit and treating people equally, yet when it came to V, who is significantly smarter than he is, he was a total arsehole to him, non-stop. The hypocrisy staring his stupid self dead in the face and the self-awareness, voomp, gone. These kinds of people are just straight up full of shit. The militarism argument falls flat at best. You know why? Because all you're doing is showing humans defending their homeland from monsters. No more, no less. I do not consider their existence valid, nor do I consider them somehow my equal. I consider them a menace, and I fully endorse, if the Federation was so inclined, the utter annihilation of the bugs because I deem the human species superior. And if this offends you, oh boo-hoo, cry more. Let me say this, the people who sympathize with the bugs, you have the exact same mental wiring as liberal white women when it comes to foreigners. Oh, if only we could sympathize with them and hug them. Oh, they're just so misunderstood. Fuck off! You are utterly clueless as to the ugly nature of reality because you have no balls. You people are the most deranged, disconnected kind of creatures. At best, you're delusional and stupid because you think everything has the potential to be kind, good-hearted, and sweet. And at worst, you're an inhumane psychopath who thinks things can be socially engineered to be this way. Either way, if you possess this kind of thinking, do the world a favor, sit down and shut the fuck up. Cheers for watching, and once again, I apologize for nothing.